Hey, Brett, before we get started, the PSI lists 6 days of jail credit. Does that sound right to you?
I believe that is correct.
Okay.
All right. Well, my wife's on my main computer doing her hearings, so that's why I don't have any kind of virtual background or anything going on today. All right. Anything else anyone wants to take up before we get on the record here?
Judge, the only thing is I did send an email just this second about his reporting. He jumped ahead of this from the jump about getting evaluated, and he's been reporting for drug treatment
Yep.
already.
Yeah, I read it. I
Okay.
read that. You get it, Mr. Smith?
I did, Judge. I just got it. I was just reading it. It's from Chautauqua Counseling Center.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Now, did I note something about, was there another case that we had to deal with a revocation motion or no? Is that a different case?
Judge, there was another case pending.
I knew that,
No.
but it got dismissed per plea.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no revocation going on. That must be the case I have this morning. All right, ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Let's be on the record, case number 2018 CR 1170, caption in State of Kansas versus Lucian Larimore. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
State of Kansas appears by Daryl Smith.
May it please the court, Mr. Larimore appears with counsel Brett Richmond, both via Zoom.
All right. Last time parties were in court was back on June 19th. At that time, the defendant changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. The court inquired and accepted that, ordered a PSI and set it for sentencing today. I've received a copy of that PSI and reviewed the same. The critical findings are as follows. The sole count of conviction is one of possession of cocaine, which is a severity level 5 non-person drug felony. The defendant's criminal history score was found to be that of E. That would leave him with a presumptive sentence with a presumption of probation, a presumptive range of 18, 20, or 22 months. If he ever has to do that time, he'd be eligible to 20% good time credit and subject to a post-release supervision duration of 12 months. If he's granted probation today, it would be for a period of 12 months to court services. Mr. Smith, I'd ask you first, did you have a chance to review the PSI? Do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges to those findings?
Judge, I did have a chance to review it. I have no additions, corrections, or challenges to its findings, and I believe if Mr. Richmond and I have agreed that the jail credit is 6 days.
All right. Mr. Richmond, same question.
Judge, I have reviewed the PSI. I've also reviewed it with Mr. Larimore here in my office before going on record with you. We have no objections or corrections to the criminal history score of F or any findings therein.
F. Did we say F or did we say E?
Oh, excuse me.
It's E, I believe.
Right.
It is. I apologize. I just misspoke.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Mr. Larimore, your lawyer tells me he went over this PSI with you. What I'm really interested in here is those back couple of pages where it has your criminal history worksheet that says that it lists any kind of prior convictions you might have had, says your criminal history score. I'll ask you if Mr. Richmond went over that with you and if you have any challenges to those findings.
Yes, he went over it with me and I don't have any challenges.
All righty, thank you. I will adopt the findings of the PSI for today's hearing. Comments on sentencing, Mr. Smith?
Judge, pursuant to the plea negotiations, I would recommend the aggravated sentencing of 22 months. The state would also be recommending 1 year probation to court services. The state's not requesting a fine.
All right. Mr. Richmond, comments?
Judge, I would concur with the state as this was a worked out a plea agreement with 2 cases. We would also recommend the aggravated sentence as well as probation. I would note that before going on the record, we also discussed too, Mr. Larimore was very proactive. Upon meeting me, he immediately had also gotten himself a drug evaluation and immediately went into treatment without the court requesting it. He did it on his own volition to better himself, Judge. I think he's going to be a great candidate for probation at this point, sir.
All right. Mr. Larimore, now's your opportunity. Tell me anything you want me to know in mitigation of your sentence today.
I really don't have much. I just know I had to do something about me getting into treatment, and I took the steps to do that.
All right, appreciate that. Mr. Richmond, do you know any legal reason why I should not now proceed to sentencing?
No, sir.
All right, so I'm going to follow the plea agreement here. I think it was well worked out by the lawyers, and I think it accurately and fairly resolves the matter here, particularly given the fact that Mr. Larimore has been so proactive in getting his LSIR and not only getting those recommendations for sentencing today, but also proof that he's availed himself of those things to keep to maintain his sobriety and keep going forward. So I have no problem following the plea agreement today with the dismissal of the other case, giving the aggravated number today of 22 months in the Department of Corrections. If he has to do that time, he'll be eligible for 20% good time credit, subject to post-release supervision duration of 12 months. His application for probation to court services is considered and it is approved. I will order that he be granted probation with court services for a period of 12 months. Mr. Larimore, you are doing everything right to make sure that this comes to a good resolution. You don't have to ever come back here again. I will tell you this, drug addiction can be a difficult thing. I don't send people to prison for being addicts. So as long as you're working it, you're going to be okay in this court. All right. So here's what I'm driving at. A lot of treatment people will tell you that they expect relapses. I reject that. I think it tells people we expect you to fail and all of that. I don't agree with that, particularly someone who's working as hard as you are. But I want you to know that if that does happen, if you do have a relapse, that it's not time to throw up your hands and say, well, I guess the judge is just going to send me to prison. What you need to do if you do find yourself relapsing is get yourself back into treatment, figure out what made you relapse, and make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. What I guess I'm saying here is as long as you're working a plan, you're going to be okay with me. The only way that I send people to prison for drug cases is if they refuse to address their addiction. You have demonstrated that you're doing exactly that. So keep it up. You're doing great, and I'm sure you're going to be successful. Mr. Larimore, I do have some questions when I'm trying to decide here on this financial thing. What are you doing for a living?
I'm a barber. I cut hair.
Okay, good deal. People back in working with you now that the pandemic, well, I don't want to say it's under control, but people are at work.
Yeah,
You
we got,
customers and doing okay?
yeah, we have to go by appointments now. So
Okay,
it's slow, but it's picking up a little bit.
all right. Well, I'm glad you got that going for you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to assess the court cost supervision fee versus the defendant. He's got retained counsel, so there's no bids fee. It says the database fee. I can't remember from my review of the PSI. Does he have a prior Kansas conviction where he would already be in the database, felony conviction? Let me take.
There are felony convictions, Judge. However, I'm double checking real quick because I recall it being very old. His last felony.
Let me see.
Yeah, Judge, they were in the 90s, I think. Oh, I see.
There's one from 87.
06. His last felony would have been from 06, sir. So I don't know if they.
Yeah, I don't think they did. So I think I have to set the DNA database fee.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
All right. So there won't be any fine. I think that covers all of the costs and fees. Given his work and his ability to work, I don't see that $100 a month would be a burden. And that would certainly get it all paid off long before his probation is up. So I'm going to order a payment plan of $100 a month. That should take care of all of that. Mr. Larimore, you have 14 days from today to appeal anything you don't like about your sentence. You also have the right to seek expungement after a period of time following successful completion of supervision. As a convicted felon, it's prohibited for you to own or possess a firearm, certain kind of deadly cutting instruments, although that seems to be in flux. Basically, dirks, daggers, switchblades, knives that could be considered deadly weapons. I won't go through the whole list with you here, but Mr. Richmond can advise you more about it. Basically, before you decide to own or possess any kind of weapon, make sure you talk to a good lawyer like Mr. Richmond to make sure that it wouldn't be reason for your probation to be revoked or new charges, okay?
Okay.
All right. Mr. Smith, anything I failed to cover today? 6 days jail credit.
I don't believe the state has anything else, Judge.
Mr.
I will be sending the journal entry to Mr. Richmond for review, and he can forward it on to you.
All right. Mr. Richmond, anything I need to add?
No, Judge.
All right. Then we will be adjourned. Mr. Larimore, you keep up the good work. You're doing great. Good luck to you, sir. All right.
Okay, thank you.
And Judge, one question off record real
Yep.
quick.
Yep.
With COVID going on, because typically we do this in court, my client's given a notice of to who to report to. I just need to know how he needs to go about reporting, just so we're on the same page.
He needs to call court services. I'm used to doing this with community corrections, but the number is 913-573 carry
7327, or I'm sorry, 2846.
2846. 573-2846. Let him, when he calls, let him know that he's just been sentenced and granted probation to court services. I'm going to fill out the paperwork here and shoot it over to them today, so they will have his cost sheet, his order of probation, and all that to go over with him.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
So we got that, you got that number all right, 2846?
Yes, sir.
Okay, super. Anything else, guys?
No, sir.
No,
We
Your
will
Honor.
be adjourned. Amanda, see you at
See you 10.